Hello and welcome to the Sports Box again, guys. It's been a long weekend, a weekend where we uh, actually did not put up anything. So now we are back, and we are back to what we love. Um, Game week 24, the preview, EPL coming back again, the second time this year, and the start of 15 game weeks of a very tight season. And as they say, a season deciding 2 weeks upcoming, 2 weeks of fixtures upcoming. So, right, Prithvi, would you like to start off with the Arsenal fixture, the first one, Arsenal play Cardiff?
Yeah, Arsenal being Cardiff, you sort of, even before calling out the fixture, you know what would a probable result would be. But Arsenal being Arsenal, you never know what you're going to get out of them because they've been a little inconsistent. I'm hearing that Ozil is back in the starting lineup, and finally Emery knows that he can't, offload him this January. So I think that he's going to give him a chance for a while, for a little time because I don't know what's wrong with them. There's nothing. There's no media outburst or anything on that, but everything is happening on the training ground. But you can't really figure out why a player of Ozil's quality is sitting on the bench week in week out. He can at least come off the bench. He's not even coming off the bench in a lot of games. And even if he is, he's not coming in, match winning situations where he can actually turn around the game. He did come on against Manchester United, but I think that this would be an ideal game for Ozil to actually come back to form because you know that he's going to get a lot of time on the ball, and Ozil is very dangerous when he has time on the ball. He could, play in that decisive through ball. So, what's your thought on Ozil getting back in the lineup?
That's one, and I'll obviously get to it. I think the more poignant part would be the fact that it'll be in honor of Emiliano Sala. And there'll be some part, and at least I'm assuming it at the start of the game where they'll, and we hope and we pray that we get some kind of information and hopefully it's positive about it. So yeah, so coming back to the match, a very I'm sure, and I was asking a couple of my Arsenal friends the last week that why can't Ozil and Ramsey play in the same team? Now that they've started Aubameyang and Lacazette, I think Ozil will actually suit their formation now because if Aubameyang sort of roams and plays as the second striker with Lacazette playing up front, Ozil would then be able to dictate his passes um, to either or. Now again, the issue would be, I think, wings, right? And that's what they have been finding a little difficult. Um, Also, another point to note is the fact that Omar Niasse is starting for Cardiff for those FPL guys. Another cheap budget option coming up, but some they've been lacking goals, and hence I think this gives them a new dimension. Niasse would be direct; he's pretty physical. So yeah, so Cardiff could actually pose a threat to a makeshift Arsenal defense.
Yeah, maybe, probably. I think that the likes of Niasse, we do forget, he played a pretty pivotal part in Everton's campaign last year. He scored 8 goals in like 1,000 minutes, which is very good. Yeah, I was just researching Nias for my FPL team, and I came
Mm.
across a stat wherein he scored, 8 goals last season with 3 assists, and he only played 1,000 odd minutes, which is, I think, a really good conversion for a club which was struggling last season. So I think
Correct.
Umar Nias is a very good frontman for Cardiff. Considering the overall quality in this squad, I think he is that player who can get into the right positions and score.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
Manchester City face Newcastle, and finally Kevin De Bruyne starts. I think he's one of the most talented players in the league. He's had a very unfortunate season this year. He's only started 2 games. I was just going through the stats, and I realized that he's just started 2 games and he's not played the full 90 for even a single game. So I think it's a perfect opportunity for him to come back in the team and actually make an impact because Bernardo Silva has really taken his spot as of now. And I think he'll have to do really hard to outplay him. Like Pep Guardiola also stated in his press conference that, the way Bernardo is playing right now, Kevin will have to be at the top of his form to actually displace him. So I'm
Yeah,
assuming
that's
that,
true.
and Sane and Sterling again come back. I am expecting a routine 3-0, 4-0 rout for City. And I've gotten Kevin De Bruyne in my FPL team. I wanted to take a chance in him because we all know how good a player Kevin De Bruyne is, and he hasn't really had that, hasn't really got his season going. And I think that he will be a very pivotal player for Manchester City if they actually have to win a title.
Yeah, that's a very important point in especially in a part of the season now where injuries become even more critical. Kevin De Bruyne is one of the freshest players, and he could play an extremely important role for the club if they are. And Aguero starts. Also another big news, and not Jesus. Um, let's go to United Burnley. Two very major changes happening. Mata starting, Lukaku starting, Martial not on the bench. He has a slight knock, as Ole said. A very important change also is Andres Pereira starting instead of Herrera. Herrera's getting a rest. So people were expecting, or there are rumors of Pereira going on loan. So that's definitely now out of the window because I think Ole wants a bit of squad because I don't think so United are getting anyone in January too. So yeah, so that's new, and Luke Shaw, Young, and Lindelof and Jones make the rest of the back four. The rest of the team remains the same. I'm assuming Rashford would now start on the left with Lukaku uh, in the
Hmm.
central position and Mata on the right.
Or you never
Uh,
know, he started Lukaku on the right against Arsenal. He
Arsenal,
may start him on the right again.
that's
And
possible. Yeah, that's possible.
coming back to Lukaku, what are your thoughts on his celebration? I think I've never seen a striker celebrating so much for an assist. I don't know. He just put his arms wide and was, waiting for the applause of an assist. And he's supposed to be a striker who's supposed to bang in the goals.
No,
So your thoughts on that?
the good part is, firstly, I know it's a lot of banter, but I think the good part is he contributed in the game, and that's something that he's been lacking. He's been sort of criticized for the rest of his gameplay being not that he's been scoring many, but the fact is with the rest of the team and creating. He was like this at Everton, if you remember. It wasn't only about the goals he himself scored, and that's why a club like United bought him. And if he could add to that game where he has that dimension, and Roberto Martinez at Belgium uses that pretty well. Uh, but he
Exactly.
also has Hazard and De Bruyne are there to assist or help him with, but he uses Lukaku pretty well there. So I think that could be one of the reasons why he must be really very happy for the fact that he's finally being able to
But
prove his
still,
critics wrong.
celebration for that assist was a little extravagant. I was just laughing my ass off. I mean, who does that for an assist? Not even a good midfielder or a midfielder like Kevin De Bruyne or someone who is renowned for the kind of passes they put in. Agreed, they were really good assists, but I think he celebrated more than the guy who actually got the goal, which was really hilarious.
Because the guy who was scoring was actually doing the MJ performance at that time. So that those were two different celebrities. I mean, again, Arsenal being Arsenal, they actually capitulated at Emirates that day. Right, so couple of more games to look forward to today. Fulham and Brighton.
Are you sure
Brighton
that's
have
a
Matt
thing to
Ryan.
look forward
No,
to?
no. I mean,
Not even
for the FPL, for the FPL,
not even for
but
FPL.
no, no, dude, Matt Ryan is back, so that's something that people would actually want. So that's for Huddersfield versus Everton, and Wolves v West Ham, Jota, Jimenez, and Doherty owners. That's the game that you forward. And Arnautovic supposedly had released a video, West Ham saying that he's staying and he's not leaving. So that's another one of those games. Would you like to make today's predictions first and then move on to the important fixtures for tomorrow?
Yeah, so I think that it's going to be a 2-1 win for United. I think it's not going to be very easy.
Correct.
Uh, this side, the Burnley side they're facing, is not a very easy team when it if at all they perform at the best. So I think that they have a good chance of scraping through a win. I'm not expecting them to absolutely massacre them or murder them. Again, I think City are gonna get one of those big scorelines again. They're starting a proper. I think this is sort of their first choice squad if you actually look at it. Like
Correct.
so Sane,
Correct.
Sterling, Aguero, Kevin De Bruyne, David Silva. David Silva
Yeah.
is starting, right?
That's
Yeah,
starting. Yeah.
and
This is a squad that played the
yeah.
most part last
I
year.
think, I think Danilo is the only one who didn't play much of a part last season. I think if Mendy comes back in, that according to me will be the ideal City squad. They would want to field against a team, in the top or on top of the league, or say a top four team, and probably in a big Champions League game, this is the kind of team they would want to play. So I think that Kevin De Bruyne has been that final piece in the jigsaw for them, and I think he'll do really well. And the other big game that we're looking at, Arsenal, I think, as with all due respect to Cardiff, and even after the fact that Cardiff have been pretty solid defensively, and the Arsenal defense is in shambles, and there's a big injury crisis going on as well. But I still think that Arsenal will actually scrape through a win. Could be a 2-0, 3-0. I think Aubameyang is going to get on the score sheet.
True.
And what are your predictions for the same games?
So I think I will agree with you with the United a bit. I think 3-1 is where I'm seeing United winning. 3-0 surely to City. And Arsenal also I predict a pretty high scoring game because I don't think so. Cardiff are, as much as it's going to be a very serious and very sensitive game today, but I think Arsenal will come out winners of 3-1 or 2-0 or something like that. This is
Yeah.
what I
So
see.
a couple of other talking points I think we
Yeah,
should cover.
yeah.
Considering that we didn't post a video over the weekend, sorry guys. And I think one of the biggest and the most explosive press conferences, which had a lot of reactions over Twitter and all sorts of social media, was Pochettino saying that winning trophies only leads to a big ego and does nothing else. So, I mean, what is your take, considering the fact that you're a Manchester United fan, which prides
Who's
itself
looking?
trophies, and
I'll,
he's a prospective, former future employee. He would probably take up
that's
the manager's job. So, what do you think on that? Is it just trying to deflect attention, like probably a Mourinho would do, or is it what he actually believes?
no. I genuinely feel that that statement would actually reduce the stock in front of Woodward or any of the Manchester United board members because trophies are something that every club and Chelsea, United, Arsenal, City, they pride themselves on. You can say all your reasons for your stadium being made, your team being um, not completely capable of competing in multiple competitions, but trophies is still what you will be judged on, and you have to enhance people rate, hence the likes of Andy Gray, Gary Neville, still rate Jose Mourinho that highly because he is one of the best managers in the last 2 decades by a mile because the number of trophies he's won irrespective of how he
Exactly.
goes at different clubs. And Pochettino will have to realize this that as much as he's taken, so I think Spurs have come from a position where, and that's what he was trying to communicate, that they've come from a position where they were never ever top six contenders to now top four contenders, and now the next level has to change. It has to become a Carabao Cup or at least a FA Cup winners. Something has to come in his hand for him to sustain. But I think he's that ideal employee. You see. I think again their issue is Daniel Levy, and he's not. It's not Pochettino. Pochettino is doing perhaps very very well with the squad that he has, but Daniel Levy actually has screwed or turned the key so much that this barely. I saw few of the absolute unknowns playing the FA Cup, which they lost.
Yeah, but there's a lot of talk of him saying that we made progress. I think the first two times Tottenham finished in the Premier League, fourth in the Premier League was first under Harry Redknapp, second under Andre Villas-Boas. So when Pochettino actually got into the job, they had like one season where they didn't finish in the top four. And if you actually look at the progress, they were finishing in the top four, not winning a trophy when Pochettino took over, and they are
Mm.
finishing in the top four, not winning a trophy when Pochettino is still in the job and might quit at the end of the season.
That's true.
So
That's a very
I
valid
don't know
point.
what is the best we talk a lot about these players getting soft. I think that we need to stop glorifying managers like Pochettino and Klopp who haven't won anything, and just because of the exciting football and doing well with the squad they have now, Klopp has no excuse to actually not win the title this season because he spent 200 million again. But I think that the media need to stop glorifying these managers. I know they're doing a good job, but I'm not ready to buy the fact that Tottenham do not have the squad to win a Carabao Cup or an FA Cup, and I do not even buy the fact that that if they are finishing in the top four in the Premier League, they can't win the FA Cup alongside that. I think that is also a very stupid argument. It's not that there are 15 odd games in the FA Cup and it's going to cause a lot of fatigue. You can actually, if you don't want to go for the League Cup, you can at least go in for the FA Cup. I know there are injuries, I know there are other issues, but I think the lack of intent is something which is not very good for the Premier League. Another
So
talking point, which yeah, tell me.
yeah. So you've absolutely hit the nail on the head, I think, because you can't. uh, There are some darlings of the media, as they say, right? The Klopps and the Pochettinos of the world, because they are actually doing pretty well. Um, Speaking to the media, they're doing well, setting their teams up. I mean, I've never seen a good team being set up, winning any kind of thing. So yeah, for that matter, Pep should be absolutely glorified because he plays well, he scores, he's doing well, and it's 2 seasons in a row where I don't think so. Apart from Liverpool, there's anyone else going to catch them. So 100%, you've completely hit the nail.
Yeah, and I think that they should stop taking, Pochettino's and Klopp's names in the same breath as Pep, because I think Pep is a serial winner. Klopp
Absolutely.
has won stuff, I totally agree, but he needs to prove his mettle again. I think he is a very good manager. It's not that he's
Yeah.
not a good manager, but is he an elite manager? I'm not very sure. He needs to back it with trophies, and that is what differentiates a very good manager who will do the best with the squad and from an elite manager who is actually going to be a game changer, who's going to create history for a club, which Mourinho did for Chelsea. He did it for Inter. He beat Pep Guardiola at Milan, at sorry Madrid, and Klopp did make his bit of history when he won the title twice with Borussia Dortmund. That's like almost 7 8 years back. So he needs to get back in the game. I think he has a good enough squad to actually win the league this season. I hope he does because I think he's a good manager. I don't hope he does because obviously I don't want Liverpool to win the win, but for his sake, for the fact that he has put in a lot of hard work and he should actually reap some reward of that. But yeah, are you saying something?
No, no, that's it. I agree completely. Yeah.
Yeah, and one last talking point as a Chelsea fan, Callum Hudson-Odoi,
Uh-huh.
actually, there was a lot of talk going about him leaving for Bayern, and Bayern were pretty public and pretty vocal with their stance on him, and he is actually staying at the club. So I think that's a very good sign for English football and a very good sign for Chelsea, first of all. And apparently, there's a good chance that if he gets good playing time in the next 4 months, he may actually sign a long-term contract. And if Eden Hazard, God forbid, if Eden Hazard doesn't want to stay at Chelsea, and if Real Madrid actually make that offer, I think the likes of Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi on the wings would be a very good replacement for Chelsea in the future.
Yeah, and I think Chelsea have done well keeping him afloat at least for the next 6 months, so that you have enough time to then change his mind again and make them feel that Chelsea are as good a club as Bayern Munich, because I don't think so. Um, Bayern might be winning the league, but the competition is so meager that it's very weak. So yeah, it's a good decision done by them, and he's a terrific player, man. His goal was brilliant. That first touch, it reminded me of Rashford the way he scored it. That's how good the talent he is, and such talent should be like head and shoulders preserved, and you'll have already started in the right direction. And whether or not Hazard goes, that's still not perhaps entirely sure. So as much as you can, you keep the likes of Loftus Cheek and Hudson Odoi, and you have good 10 years of such players in your hands.
All right. So, anything else we need to discuss on this?
So no, that's it. I think tomorrow's game has Chelsea, and
Yeah,
tomorrow is
Chelsea.
Chelsea, Tottenham, and Tottenham play Watford, and Chelsea play
Chelsea are going to play Bournemouth tomorrow.
Bournemouth. Yeah, and which is at Bournemouth again, which I do feel Chelsea are going to thrash because Bournemouth's defense somehow has taken a beating these days. Although he's starting to do well now, and Liverpool play Leicester, and
Mm.
so these three are the primary
That could
games
be a
tomorrow.
the
Banana
Liverpool
skin,
Leicester
yes.
game.
Yeah, it could be a banana skin with considering Leicester end up only playing well only against the top teams. They end up absolutely struggling to get out of their half when they are playing.
Yeah,
You know,
and then they had a very good game against Liverpool in
yeah,
the
yeah. Last time,
beginning
okay,
of the season. I think they deserved a point out of that at least
correct.
because they dominated possession as well. They had more possession than Liverpool. They had more shots than Liverpool. They did miss a couple of sitters which they should have scored. So I think Leicester could be that potential banana skin for Liverpool, which they had were for Man City as well during the festive period. So
Mhm.
but still, I do think that Liverpool will be favourites, but there could be and an early goal for Leicester could all turn everything upside down.
So Richarlison and Murray have scored while we are speaking, and if it's in anyone's squad, they've already hit the
So if
points.
anyone actually had the patience of keeping Richarlison in their squads even after that abysmal run of I think four or
Uh,
five blanks, I think
Correct.
it finally paid off.
So that's that. So I think that should be that, and we'll catch up with you again, guys. Thank you for tuning in again, and do listen, like, subscribe, share, and let us know what you want to hear about uh, the world of sports, and we'll keep coming up with new topics to discuss.
All right. Good night.
Good night.